Good morning, it is a Thursday and we are just one game from Gdansk. It is time for the semi-final second legs, and this is the UEFA Europa League breakfast show brought to you by IKEA. My name is Jack Collins, and joining me this week is one of my favourite broadcasters in the world, Miss Jules Breach. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for saying I'm one of your favourites.
It's true, you know.
I think I believe you.
You should, you very much should. And don't forget, we want to hear from you guys as well. You can get in touch with the show using the hashtag UEL Breakfast. Coming up on today's show, we are going to be looking forward to the second legs of these semi-finals. But Jules, we are now just one game from the final. How will the players be feeling?
It's crunch time, isn't it? This is, like, for me, probably one of the most exciting parts of knockout tournaments in the semi-finals of the Europa League. That last opportunity to get yourself to the final. This is what the players all dream of. This is it. I almost feel like the semi-finals are almost more exciting than the final itself.
Yeah, and if you get to the final, there's the whole experience of it, right? But being knocked out at this stage is heartbreaking. And you've worked across this tournament, you've seen semi-finals. What are some of your favourite memories?
Yeah, I've been super lucky to be able to travel to plenty of European matches around the continent. Last year, having the tournament as it was due to COVID, the games were so close together, that was a whole new experience in itself. And I just remember particularly the absolute thrashing that Inter gave Shakhtar, and just watching it, just thinking, wow, they're going to go on to win this. And then you have, on the other hand, Manchester United losing in the semi-finals last year to Sevilla, the most successful team in the competition. I'd been to the final in Baku, where Chelsea played Arsenal, and the semi-final for Chelsea to get to the final was a really entertaining match. Extra time, penalties, the whole narrative around it was that, was it going to be Eden Hazard's last season with Chelsea? It turned out that that was the case, and of course he ends up scoring the winning penalty to get them to the final. But then Kepa was the hero in that game, really, because he saved two of the penalties, and that's probably the most recent one that I can remember, just thinking, wow, this is pretty special. The
Aubameyang hat-trick in the other semi that year as well. It was all just going off in one go.
But when you have those moments in these semi-finals where, you know, just one goal can make the difference, that's basically what we love to see as fans. That's why the away goal is so exciting.
Let's take a look at the games tonight then. One of the semi-finals on a knife edge, and the other, let's be perfectly honest, not so much. And we'll start with Roma against Manchester United. And at half-time in this game, it looked like we had a genuine European thriller on our hands, right? Roma leading, 2 away goals, it all looking a bit in jeopardy for United. And then that second-half performance, just outstanding.
2-1 down at half-time. I think there were a lot of Manchester United fans, pundits, neutral fans, just saying Ole Gunnar Solskjaer needs to do something at half-time, change something around to kind of turn the tie on its head in the second half. Well, he didn't need to, because the players on the pitch managed to do that themselves. And what a second half performance it was. Probably one of the standout second half performances I've seen of late in any competition. Yeah. It was a complete turnaround, and now they've got a 4-goal advantage heading into the second leg. They're in a commanding position. You can't really see it going any other way.
Manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was, to put it lightly, pretty pleased with that second half performance.
Good reaction at half time or second half. I thought we played some good stuff in the first half as well, but we forgot that you have to run back as well, and you have to run back quick. And in the second half, we did that part better, and of course that creates more opportunities to attack. So you know, we're a year older, more experienced. Of course, we picked a quite experienced team today to handle setbacks, and they did.
Jules, do Roma have any chance at putting this back? I seem to recall a slightly similar situation in the Champions League a few years back against Barcelona, where they did manage to put it out of the bag at the Olympico.
Well, it's going to be tough. You know, a 4-goal swing is pretty hard for any team to turn around, no matter who you've got managing you, no matter who the players are on the pitch, because mentally it's going to be tough for them to look at this and kind of see it as a blank canvas, if you know what I mean. It's going to be pretty hard for them. But the whole point of being a football fan, and if I was a Roma fan, I would still have a tiny bit of hope, because that's what we watch football for, isn't it? And when they've got a player like Dzeko who has the ability to have a moment of magic, and when he's got stats behind him, like he's a player who has scored in 3 different decades against Manchester United at Old Trafford, anything can happen.
Yeah, I mean, that Dzeko stat's a wonderful one, isn't it? And also for 3 different clubs. Did it for Wolfsburg, for Man City, and now for Roma. So to have that kind of player in your ranks does mean that anything can happen, but it's a big struggle. We go on to the other semi-final, which is much more finely poised. And this is a really interesting one. Arsenal, really quite poor for the first 45 minutes, have managed to vaguely rescue themselves here with an away goal.
I wasn't surprised when I saw they were 2-0 down. I just thought, I mean, it's what we've seen from Arsenal this season. There have been a couple of occasions where you thought, okay, Mikel Arteta's building something here. They go on a run of a couple of 2-3 games where you think, okay, this team can actually do something. And then they have performances like that one in the first half against Villarreal where you just think, what even is going on with this Arsenal team? Where are they at? But look, to get that away goal for them is huge. We know how important away goals are in this competition. And they've given themselves a bit of a fighting chance, which I don't think anyone really saw coming. And Villarreal will be kicking themselves because of that, because they had the opportunity to put the game to bed. They had plenty other chances other than the 2 goals that they scored. And if it weren't for Leno, who pulled out a couple of really brilliant saves, the game would be dead and gone.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Mikel Arteta there. Here's what he had to say after the final whistle.
Obviously, we are disappointed that we lost the game, obviously, because it's not the result that we wanted to take from the game. But after the story of the game, I think we have to take it because we are on the tie, we are alive, and with the circumstances that developed during the game, it put the game and the tie in real danger at some stage.
So we heard from Mikel Arteta there, Jules, but his opposite number, Unai Emery, said after the game that whilst he was happy to get the win, it did feel like a missed opportunity for Villarreal, and you can see why. It did feel a little bit like they let Arsenal back into this.
Yeah, they really let Arsenal off the hook because I thought Villarreal were excellent, particularly in that first half. And when you have the opportunity to put a game to bed, like Manchester United did against Roma in the other semi-final, and taking such a huge advantage into a second leg, it makes all the difference, both mentally and obviously to the scoreline itself as well. And I just feel like they'll be kicking themselves. Yes, you have the advantage going into the second leg. You've got that 1-goal advantage, you're 2-1 up. I'm not so sure now. I think it's a lot more evenly balanced because of that away goal Arsenal have.
Who could be the hero, though?
For me, it has to be the 19-year-old magician that seems to have saved Arsenal's season, Bukayo Saka. I mean, what a player he is, by the way. He's just been so amazing to watch, and it seems kind of crazy that in this Arsenal team we're talking about a guy in his teens who has been pulling the strings for them. I think Aubameyang will start the game as well, and because of scoring domestically at the weekend, I think that he comes back into the side fresh. He's now recovered from his illness and looked a lot better at the weekend as well, and I think that having him back in the side is massive for Arsenal.
That little bit of experience from Aubameyang, but I do agree with you, it is Bukayo Saka. You don't earn the moniker, the Ealing Eusebio, for nothing. Let's take a little look around social media, and we'll start with Bruno Fernandes, who posted this on Instagram. I hope you didn't turn off at halftime. I really enjoyed this.
No one switches off at halftime, do they? No one ever does, Bruno. But this is, I mean, he was so good, wasn't he? I mean, he's been pulling the strings for United all season. The second half performance was amazing. 5 goals in the second half. As a United fan, if you were watching that, you were loving every second of it. And look at all of the replies on this as well. So many of other professionals in the game and some of his countrymen as well, just saying how much they loved it. What a performance from him.
Yeah, it's hard. I imagine if you're part of that Portuguese Selecao, you must be like, oh, I know exactly what I'm watching and I know exactly how good this guy is ahead of the summer. We'll move on, and one of Arsenal's invincibles, Laurent, posted this tweet about the fact that they had beaten Villarreal in that wine-coloured kit. What a kit.
Bit of an omen, that, isn't it? Yeah, how highly does it rate for you?
Right up there.
Really?
Right up there.
Is
like
it?
One of the iconic kits.
You reckon?
But I think I was like the exact point in my childhood where I was like properly obsessed and like everything was kicking along, and that kit just stands out.
That Arsenal team though, I mean, the best.
Move on to another Arsenal player, David Luiz here on UEFA TV, showing some skills. Sometimes you forget he's Brazilian and then he just does something like this.
Go on, David Luiz. Yeah, you love to see this, don't you? I love any kind of videos from training that always get put on social media. It's always good to see them having fun and just relaxed, isn't it?
And then there was just some general tweets and quite a lot of sentiment on social media about Paulo Fonseca's hat. Now, he got a bit of grief, and I wasn't sure about this. I quite liked it.
Do you?
Yeah.
You know what? I feel like that managers have a bit of a rough time if they're not in a tracksuit, though. If you see a manager that's not dressed in a tracksuit and they're doing pressers or anything, they always seem to get a little bit of stick, don't they? I think it's a good look, actually. But although we have seen Fonseca before don a different kind of hat, haven't we? Against Manchester City, remember that?
That's not a hat.
The Zorro outfit. That was pretty special.
Absolutely. And now it's your turn to get involved in the Europa League this season. There have been so many magical moments that have changed the course of matches. Not just goals, but assists, cards, tackles, saves, you name it. The UEL final will certainly give us more of these moments, and it's your turn to get involved. We've got a special competition to tell you about where you can win prizes by predicting the unpredictable moments in the final. All you have to do is follow the link in the description, choose one of 5 scenarios that could happen during this year's final. You'll then be given a randomly generated time code, and if your chosen moment happens at your time, you could be in with a chance to win. This is the UEL final. Pick your moment, get your time, cross your fingers. As Jules said earlier, it's now that time where players and coaches can start to dream about lifting the trophy. No manager has done that more times than Unai Emery.
Pero no va a haber ningún... He jugado contra muchos ex equipos, muchos. Tuve también unas semifinales ya anteriores, un Sevilla-Valencia. Tuve unas semifinales, un Arsenal-Valencia, que también fue muy dura, que ahí con el Arsenal la conseguimos ganar. Hay que romper barreras y cada oportunidad hay que jugarla y trabajarla. Las han tenido antes, no lo han roto. Y que lo sigamos viviendo. Ahora tenemos una oportunidad y vamos a tratar de que sea esta. Y también mantengo muy buenos recuerdos del año y 4 o 5 meses que estuve allí. Vivimos momentos también muy bonitos también a nivel de juego. Pude también transmitir lo que yo había vivido, había sentido en el Sevilla, igual que en su momento defendía al Arsenal en aquella final contra el Chelsea, pues con un sentimiento rojo del color del Arsenal, ahora del red. Ahora tengo el sentimiento amarillo totalmente. Pero voy a poner todas las armas en mi responsabilidad para que los broguets, los amarillos, sean los que traten de imponer el control y la balanza en el juego. Unai Emery, entrenador del Villarreal Club de Fútbol. 3 veces ganador de la UEFA Europa League.
Emery's won 3 titles already with Sevilla and could move ahead of Giovanni Trapattoni to become the first manager ever to win 4 titles in this competition.
He knows it so well, and especially when you've got that psychologically behind you, facing another team that knows how well Unai Emery gets this competition. He knows how to win it. You've been there, you've done it before. That gives you a huge mental advantage in a final as well. But this season, I mean, he's given himself such a good chance with this Villarreal team. They're unbeaten in European competition this season. They're the only team to do that along with Manchester City.
Yeah, a beautifully balanced team led by a man with such experience. I just want to give a shout out to Giovanni Trapattoni. We talked about him at the top there, but it is one of those things where he won his first title in the UEFA Cup, as it was then, in 1977, and then didn't win his next one until 1991. 14 years between his first 2 titles.
Amazing, isn't it?
I think one of the most interesting things about that is that one of his players in 1977, Dino Zoff, went on to win it as a manager, but he won his first trophy as a manager in 1990, a year before Trapattoni then went and won his second, and that kind of all just is a little bit mad.
It's crazy, isn't it, when you think about there aren't even that many players who make it as successful managers. So to be a player who has won a European title, to then go on and actually win it as a player and as a manager, it's an incredible short list of players to be in. And I do just want to shout out Diego Simeone, who has done that. He is one of my favourite managers of all time. Such a character. Whenever Atletico play, you see him on the sidelines. He is just box office to watch, isn't he? It's like a show in itself, just watching Diego Simeone. But yeah, winning it 3 times, once as a player, twice as a manager of Atleti. I mean, he's a bit of magic, isn't he?
On the playing side of things, another man who could really set some records, becoming the first player to ever win this with 3 different clubs, is Willian.
Yeah, I mean, wow, like, this is amazing. And it was so long ago that he won his first one with Shakhtar, wasn't it? Back in 2009.
Yeah, still the UEFA Cup.
Yeah, and then Chelsea after that, and now having the opportunity to do it with Arsenal.
Well, some of them have lifted it already, but this is the trophy that they're all trying to get their hands on.
Io mi chiamo Angelo Savino e faccio il montaggio dell'Europa League, della Champions, della Coppa del Mondo e della Super Cup. La Europa League è la mia coppa preferita. Per me è la più difficile. Ci sono vari passaggi e poi bisogna montarla tutta tra le bandierine, le lettere. Quando c'è la finale della Coppa lo guardo sempre, solo per vedere la Coppa. Un po' di orgoglio, dice, l'ho montata, di qua, di là. Basta che non si rompe.
Ci sono giocatori che hanno veramente una relazione unica con l'Europa League. È molto importante che un simbolo di vittoria passi fisicamente nelle mani di Baggio, di Ronaldo, di Maradona. O qualcosa che sia bello, che sia artistico. In questo caso è una funzione molto nobile, quella di premiare chi ha vinto.
It's such a beautiful trophy. I'll be
favourite,
honest, it's
isn't
my
it?
favourite.
It
I
is.
love the flags on
You're
the
not
bottom.
just saying that because of this show either.
I adore it. Like the flags on the bottom, the Coupe UEFA, all of it, just is perfect.
It is. It's huge as well, isn't
Massive.
it? I can testify. It is a huge trophy. I was at the final in Baku, and I was actually with Mark Schwarzer. And obviously, having previously played for Chelsea, who won it that year, he knows all the players. And Azpilicueta came over to us for an interview with the trophy. So I got the chance to actually hold it. I gave it a little stroke and everything.
It's really heavy.
It's double the weight of the World Cup. Did you know that?
You ruined my fun fact, which was going to be it
Sorry.
was going to be made by the same people who make the World Cup. But you know,
I didn't steal your line. I just said it's double the weight of the World Cup. But there you go.
Along with our partners at Kia, we've been highlighting some of our favourite celebrations from the Europa League. Here's a couple from a man who lit up the first legs of the semi-finals, Edinson Cavani. What a performance. So we mentioned it briefly earlier, but I feel like it needs more love. It's just an incredible, two goals, 2 assists, just absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, the perfect performance, a man for big matches. He is just incredible to watch, not just because of his extraordinary physique and how he actually carries himself across the pitch. You say it there, 2 goals, 2 assists. The assist for Bruno's first goal.
A delight.
Oh, it's just amazing. It's just like one-touch football. It's so difficult, and he just makes football look so simple. It just looks just so easy for him. It's so natural. I mean, we've talked about it already. Experience is so important. He's 34 years old, but he's like a well-oiled machine, and he doesn't look like he's getting a day older.
Yeah, and he's such a consummate professional as well, and you can see the other players sort of looking for him, learning from him.
Experience, we've talked about it already, it's so important. And when you look around the Manchester United squad, the likes of Mason Greenwood, who's an extraordinary talent and probably one of the best finishers that I've ever seen, but when he's got someone like Edison Cavani in the squad who can actually teach him how to play in these big games, and he's got the experience of being there and doing that, you just actually can't put a price on that.
We saw it a couple of times there, but that bow and arrow celebration is trademark now.
Yeah, players have their trademark celebrations, don't they? And this is now Edison Cavani's one, and because he scores so many goals, you get to see it quite often, which is nice. But I always like to find out why players do certain celebrations and why it becomes a thing. And from what I've read, it's that it's got a lovely little tie to his daughter and his heritage as well, which just makes it even more. I mean, is he the perfect man, Jack?
Is very plausible. Is very plausible. This season, Kia have collaborated with 1 Million Dance Studio, who've been inspired to incorporate some classic celebrations into their routines. To check them out and much more, head over to Kia's YouTube channel. It's time for this week's Top 5, where I've asked Jules to pick out 5 of her favourite stories about multiple winners of this competition. So, over to you.
Yeah, no pressure. Hopefully I don't offend anyone by leaving anyone out. But number 5 for me, I've gone for Fernando Torres, El Nino, a player who I actually have adored watching over the years. Always graceful on the pitch, scored some wonderful goals as well, and won the competition twice. Once with Chelsea, once with Atleti, with his childhood club. So a nice way to kind of end his career. A bit of a fairy tale, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he was so good in that final in 2013, but it is the Atleti one that really stirs the heartstrings, isn't it? Obviously returned to his boyhood club and won his first ever trophy with them in that kind of last real game in UEFA competition. And it just felt right. He came on late as a sub in that game, but I think people maybe take that as he didn't really contribute that season. He was actually massive in their campaign.
Right, number 4 for me, Radamel Falcao. Had to pick him. He had to be in my top 5. Won it twice, Porto and Atleti as well. I mean, literally, one of his nicknames is King of the Europa League. So he had to make my top 5.
Yeah, and there was a good reason for that as well. And I think there's a lot of players who, win this multiple times, but Falcao put both teams on his back. He scored 17 goals in that Porto run to the final. And then the season after, he scored 12 in Atleti's run to the final. If anyone else tried to take the trophy home from those two teams, I really hope he was like, no, that's all mine.
That is mine, and that's how we got the nickname. In at 3rd place, Jack. This was an easy one for me. Jesus Navas, it was just where he was going to go in the list, but I knew he had to make it. I mean, there are a lot of players that have actually won the Europa League 3 times with Sevilla. But the reason I've gone for him is because I was actually there to watch him lift it the last time, which was in last year's final. It was such a privilege to be at that Europa League final, especially because no fans were allowed in the stadium. So being able to work at that final really did feel like I was one of a select few, because I literally was. But to see him lift that trophy, what it meant to him as well, captain of the club, it's his boyhood club as well, it's special. And I think that I had to pick a Sevilla player and it had to be him.
Yeah, it's a really nice one, and there was so much emotion attached to that last year. And he was obviously wearing the number 16 shirt that once belonged to his friend Antonio Puerta, who he won his first UEFA Cup at the time alongside, and it did feel incredibly poignant, so I'm really glad you picked him.
Okay, number 2 for me now, the penultimate player on my list. We've got to go a bit back in the archives for this one, Jack.
Go dig in.
Dino Baggio, a little bit before both of our times, definitely before yours, but he won it 3 times and he was an absolute monster in finals, a big player for big occasions.
You're looking at those finals, and the first 2 finals he played in were back in the 2-legged final era, so he played in 4 legs.
Weird to think of those now, isn't
Really
it?
weird. Yeah. He played in 4 legs and he scored in each of them as a defensive midfielder. And then his 3rd title, he won with a star-studded Parma side that still has loads of household names now. Gigi Buffon, Thuram, Cannavaro. It was massive, and he was, the guy in the middle.
And in at number 1, there can only be one, Jack. Jose Antonio Reyes. No player is more successful than him in this competition. No other player has won it 5 times. It's an absolute tragedy that he's no longer with us, but what a player he was, and so much success in the Europa League.
Yeah, and in this Europa League era, I was actually at Jose Antonio Reyes' first win in this tournament in 2010, when his Atleti broke my heart by beating Fulham in the final in Hamburg. But then to go on and win it, again once more with Atleti, and then 3 times with, again, his boyhood club Sevilla. And there was a really nice moment, and to take it back to that Jesus Navas point earlier, in that Navas last year was wearing an armband with Jose Antonio Reyes' name and likeness on it when he lifted the trophy for Sevilla. And I thought that was a beautiful moment, a beautiful tribute to the competition's most successful ever player. So I think you're absolutely spot on. There could have been no one else at number one. Jules, there's just enough time left to put you on the spot.
The paddles are out. I don't want to be under this pressure.
The paddles are out, and I'm going to have to ask you, who do you think is getting to the final?
Okay, I think the first one is pretty simple. Manchester United.
You've been brave to go any other way on that one. And who are they going to play?
Going for Manchester United, and I think they are going to play Arsenal.
Ooh,
I think
okay.
Arsenal are going to pull it out of the bag, I think it's going to be an all-English final. Had to say that as well, didn't I? But yeah, that's what I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be Man United, Arsenal.
And who's going to win it?
Final. Manchester United. They're going to get over the line this time.
Right, these were quite easy. I've given people, these paddles for the whole way, and they've been picking them right from the start. So I'm going to get a more difficult prediction off you. Who scores the first goal in this year's Europa League final?
Ooh. I'm going to go for the man who we have talked up on this show. It's got to be Edison Cavani. I can't see past Manchester United winning. I think that they've got the right mentality this season. Going out in 3 semi-finals in 3 different competitions last year, for them to get to the final this year, and it looks as though they're going to do that. Edison Cavani, game-changing player, naturally gifted goal scorer. It's all on him.
You got to back him.
Yeah, I'm backing him.
Well, thank you. And don't forget that your predictions can come true if you enter the This Is Your Moment competition. And as always, you can get in touch with the show using the hashtag UEL Breakfast. All that's left for me to do, Jules, is to say thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Thanks for having me, Jack. I'm absolutely buzzing for the games tonight. Cannot wait.
Well, I hope you enjoy the games, Jules, and I hope you enjoy the games at home as well. I've been Jack Collins. This has been the UEFA Europa League Breakfast Show. I'm off for a couple of crepes, and we'll see you next time for the final.